Was marriage always a battlefield of spilled wine and whispered secrets? Did ancient vows smell of hops and honey, not just sanctity and promises? Let's dive into a swirling, intoxicating history, a story soaked in ale, spiced wine, and the surprisingly complicated relationship between love, lust, and a really, really good drink. Imagine a world where a wedding wasn't just a ceremony, it was a full-blown, multi-day bacchanal. Forget dainty champagne toasts and polite clinking of glasses. We're talking rivers of hippocras, a potent, spiced wine flowing freely, fueled by a primal urge to celebrate, to commit, and let's be honest, to get gloriously, wonderfully drunk. It started long ago in the shadows of Roman feasts where wine wasn't just a beverage, it was a symbol of prosperity, power, and, crucially, fertility. But the real story begins to bubble up in the Middle Ages, a time when a wedding was less about religious devotion and more about, well, let's just say the stakes were high and the alcohol levels were even higher. Let's rewind to Siena, Italy, around the 13th century. Dino of Siena, a rather stern moralist, wasn't exactly throwing a party. He issued a series of warnings to widows: don't drink well, don't eat well, don't sleep well, and definitely don't sleep in a straw bed. His reasoning: a bad end was guaranteed. It sounds harsh, doesn't it? But it reveals a deep-seated anxiety about female agency, about a woman's ability to control her own destiny. And it wasn't just Dino. A 17th-century ballad chillingly stated that when a woman was drunk, all keys will fit her trunk. Suddenly, a woman indulging in a little wine was perceived as vulnerable, easily exploited, a sentiment echoed in pamphlets like La Méconcite des Filles, which declared that a drunken woman was a walking invitation to seduction. A French proverb wrapped it all up neatly: a wanton and drunken woman is not mistress of her body. It's a blunt, judgmental line, but it captures the prevailing attitude that female intoxication was a sign of weakness, a loss of control. But hold on, this isn't a one-sided condemnation. Alongside these cautionary tales, there was a whole other current of belief, a celebration of alcohol's potent, even magical effects. The ancient Greeks, of course, had it figured out. Referencing the poet Terence, they claimed wine could ignite passion, awaken desire. Marsilio Ficino, a Florentine humanist in the 16th century, wholeheartedly agreed, praising wine's ability to stir the soul. Clement Marot, a French poet, echoed the sentiment, and François Rabelais in his epic Pantagruel even had a physician warn against the dangers of too much wine, but admitted its power to chilling the blood, a slackening of the sinews. It's a fascinating tension, a simultaneous fear and fascination with the intoxicating effects of alcohol. Let's fast forward to England. The early 15th century brought us How the Good Wife Taught Her Daughter, a surprisingly practical piece of advice: moderately take you thereof, that no blame befalls you, for if you are often drunk, it reduces you to shame. But even this gentle warning hints at a wider concern. Le Mystère de la Résurrection, a medieval drama, simply stated that a woman who drank too much often loses her good name. And then there's Christine de Pizan, a formidable writer and defender of women, who in Le Livre de la Cite des Dames cautioned against superfluous food and drink, arguing they could stimulate lechery. Guillaume de la Tessinière in Elle Adifit des Demoiselles went further, claiming that wine carried the torches of Venus, directly linking alcohol to female sexuality. The praise for wine didn't stop there. Remy Bello, a 16th-century poet, wrote of Bacchus, the god of wine, sometimes seduced otherwise reluctant girls. And a 17th-century English ballad gushed that Bacchus opened every woman's door. But what about the dissenting voices? Pietro Aretino, a notorious gossip and libertine, confessed his own fondness for indulgence, arguing he was a bigger glutton than those who spent their days at the table. Michel de Montaigne, the father of essayism, wrestled with the issue, admitting that sobriety was essential for lusty exercise of love, but then contradicting himself, stating that Venus is much more sprightly when accompanied by sobriety. Shakespeare, ever observant, captured the essence of the dilemma in Macbeth, where the porter famously declared, "Drink provokes the desire, but it takes away the performance." Now, let's talk weddings. They weren't just ceremonies, they were epic celebrations fueled by copious amounts of alcohol. The Bible itself offered a potent symbol, Jesus turning water into wine at the wedding at Cana. It wasn't just a miracle, it was a statement of approval, a divine blessing on the institution of marriage. In many cultures, the betrothal ceremony involved a shared drink, a symbolic sealing of the bond. The French in particular had a ritual where the bride and groom drank together, invoking the blessing of marriage, but the real party started after the ceremony. Imagine a wedding feast stretching on for days, fueled by barrels of wine and ale. In England, the tradition of bride ale was common, a brew made specifically for the wedding, providing funds for the newlyweds. The guests would drink to the bride and groom, creating a chaotic, joyful atmosphere. The Parisians in 1420 showered Henry V of England with 1,000 gallons of wine, a testament to the importance of celebration. Venetian officials concerned about excessive drinking even attempted to regulate the amount of wine served at weddings, but the celebrations weren't always orderly. Medieval synods condemned drunkenness at weddings, attempting to curb the excesses, yet the desire for revelry persisted. In 1573, officials in Chester, Helzowen, Kendal, Manchester, and Wakefield put restrictions on the amount of ale brewed and the number of people allowed at the wedding dinner. Meanwhile, in 1562, the municipal officials in some Italian towns ordered taverns to provide wine at cost. Despite these efforts, the drinking continued, often to excess. Edmund Verney, a 17th-century memoirist, recalled a wedding that lasted for 2 days, with music, feasting, drinking, reveling, dancing, and kissing. And the celebrations didn't always end with the bride and groom. The story of Martin Guerra and Bertrand de Rolls, a 15th-century French couple, provides a particularly scandalous example. After their wedding night, the priest administered a potent spiced wine, risveil, designed to stimulate passion and fertility. The sheer volume of alcohol consumed at weddings was staggering. Mackin, a 16th-century diarist, recorded that guests at a wedding in London in 1559 enjoyed hippocras and muscatel, plenty to everybody. And in the 17th century, a wedding guest in England noted that there were no drinks that could be had for money that were wanting. The tradition of toasting the bride and groom added to the frenzy, with guests clinking glasses and raising their voices in celebration. Was it all just hedonistic excess, perhaps? But beneath the surface of drunken revelry lay a complex web of beliefs about marriage, sexuality, and fertility. Alcohol wasn't just a drink, it was a symbol, a catalyst for passion, a facilitator of commitment, and for some, a dangerous temptation. The history of wedding celebrations is a history of contradictions, a swirling mix of religious devotion, social expectation, and the irresistible allure of a good drink. So next time you raise a glass at a celebration, remember the centuries of history behind that toast, the ancient rituals, the moral anxieties, and the enduring human desire to mark a new beginning with a little bit of joy, a lot of laughter, and perhaps just a little bit too much wine. But you're probably wondering, did all these drunken weddings actually work? Did the wine truly lead to lasting love and happy unions? Or was it just a temporary escape, a fleeting moment of abandon before the realities of married life set in? And more importantly, will this story ever truly end?